A big thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co for sponsoring this video. The beta test of raids has recently ended within PokeMMO, and it's left many players yearning for more. With many veteran players posting on the forums that it was the most fun they have had playing PokeMMO in quite a while. So with that in mind, what can you do right now to prepare for the permanent re-release of raids within the coming months? Hopefully within the coming months, no exact ETA yet. What you can do is create some really good Pokemon for raids right now while it's still cheap and the demand is low. Once raids drop, it's really likely that the demand of these Pokemon and the price of all these Pokemon will go up. So make sure not to dilly-dally too long and prepare yourself if you're interested in PokeMMO raids. Now this list will mostly be based off of what was good during the beta test, and when permanent raids get released, it's possible that these are no longer useful, or what's more likely is that you'll also need a new set of raid Pokemon on top of these. Specific raids require specific solutions. It's important to also keep in mind that there is a species/item clause for raids, so no duplicate of any Pokemon species within your party of 6 Pokemon, and no duplicates of items. I'll be doing an item guide for raids soon because of this. And lastly, if this video is helpful to you, quickly taking a second to like it is tremendously helpful to my channel and spreads PokeMMO further. Also, subscribe if you want to learn more about PokeMMO every single day. But enough preamble, here is a list of some Pokemon that will likely be very good for the upcoming raids within PokeMMO. Number 1 on my list is a predictable one if your eyes peered over to my party, or if you played the beta test raids at all, it's going to be Sableye. Sableye is touted as probably the most impactful Pokemon within any raid, and it's just a support Pokemon, but it's really important, especially if you're solo queuing into raids. You have 2 options with raids. You can get a group of 4 people that you know are super solid players, or you have to solo queue into random teammates, and that can be really difficult. And supporting those teammates and allowing those teammates to stay alive is often more beneficial than trying to hyper carry with some sort of offensive strategy. So a Sableye with good defensive stats, you do not need any special attack or other stats. You don't even need speed. The only stats that you really need on a Sableye are 25 plus special defense, 25 plus defense, and 25 plus HP. And then some sort of either plus special defense, plus defense, some sort of defensive nature to increase its bulk. This one personally is EV'd as 252 HP, 252 defense, but you could do it in a couple different ways. You could even have one specially defensive Sableye for special attacking raids and one defensive Sableye for defensive raids. That's totally viable and maybe smart to do. I might go get a second Sableye. I'm talking myself into it, but you'll want a Sableye with double screens, which means reflect and light screen, and then also Will-O-Wisp. Recover is kind of optional. You can either get rid of this or add like another move onto it, but the main thing, I haven't mentioned this yet, apologies. The main thing with Sableye, Prankster. If your Sableye does not have hidden ability access, it's useless. It's bad, it's unusable, it's terrible, it's trash. I'm sorry. You have to have. The reason why this Pokemon is so good is because of Prankster. Prankster is an ability that causes your status moves to have priority. So it gives priority to Will-O-Wisp. It gives priority to your screens. So you don't need speed on Sableye. You don't have to tank those hits. If this Pokemon gets off one screen and it dies, it did its job. Thankfully, hopefully you can try to get off like 2 screens and a Will-O-Wisp or something like that, but this Pokemon is pretty hard for it to not do its job or not get really good value since it has access to that Prankster. Now, in terms of replacing the Recover, let's see what other options you may have, because Recover, you may not want to keep this thing alive, you may want to, it kind of depends. Recover's solid, especially if you're like tanking aggro. If you are drawing aggression from the enemy, which means it depends on like speed tier and stuff, it can be really good. Helping Hands, probably not a bad option at all. I don't know if this thing gets Thunder Wave. Thunder Wave would be a really good option. Yeah, it does get Thunder Wave. Just keep in mind, Thunder Wave can be really good against certain raids. Keep in mind to communicate that with your team. Some raids, if it's like a special attacking raid, Will-O-Wisp isn't good. You know, Will-O-Wisp is good because it halves the physical attack of the opponent. So against something like a Gyarados or something like another physical attacker, to be fair, Gyarados gains such attack that it was kind of ridiculous, but against physical attackers, Will-O-Wisp is insane. But against Thunder Wave, it's going to have their speed. It's going to matter a lot more against special attackers. So just fill in this slot with whatever you need for that raid, or if you want to rock Recover, you definitely can. Light Clay as the item, hyper cheap item, can be used. It's just used to extend the amount of turns from Reflect in Light Screen. It turns them in from 5 turn moves into they last 8 turns, which is super good. And that's pretty much it. Somebody should be leading with a Sableye every single fight. It's just super powerful and probably the best utility Pokemon out there. Number 2 on our list is going to be Metagross. This is not, I will remind you, this is not a perfect example of what you need, but this Metagross did perfect for me. There are ways to optimize this. For example, I wouldn't go Brave Nature. It's Brave Nature because this is meant to be a mixed Metagross, but I ended up turning it into full physical for the sake of the raids. And you know what? That works. Like, this worked plenty good. Like, you don't need a perfect Pokemon to defeat raids. Really, what you need is a decent Pokemon with 20 to 25 plus in the stats that you need, and then good strategy. Strategy and thought, like, preparing ahead of time, preparation is going to carry you a lot more throughout these PVM raids versus having 6 times 31 Pokemon. You just don't need them. But for Metagross, I would recommend 20 to 25 plus in things like HP, attack, defense, special defense, and speed. This special attack is going to be useless. I haven't seen it been used against any raid. I wouldn't worry about that. I would really recommend, if you have to pick between a 20 to 25 IV, 20 plus in HP, defense, special defense, even speed is fine. I would definitely try to, if you have the extra money though, go for 25 plus / 31 on the attack and the speed if you can spare it. In terms of EVs, I would recommend just going 252 attack, 252 speed. You could go with 252 attack, 252 HP build if your team is always going to have Tailwind support or is commonly going to have Tailwind support. It also can depend against what raid you're going against. So 252 HP, 252 attack, or 252 attack, 252 speed could both be useful. Now, moving on to the moves, this is probably the most important part of any raid Pokemon. It's just the moveset and the strategy. A big thing being run on Metagross during this game, during raids, was Iron Defense. Iron Defense is just super good. Setup seems to be really, really good against these raids, becoming unkillable, and then worrying about your damage afterwards, and the screens help with that a ton with the Sableye, like we mentioned earlier. I ran Iron Defense, Meteor Mash, Hammer Arm, and Earthquake. However, looking back, I would probably change this. I would definitely run Hone Claws. Hone Claws is really good because I believe after 1 or 2 Hone Claws, your Meteor Mash becomes 100% accuracy, which is really, really cool. Meteor Mash is a fantastic move. It's a steal, so you get stab, physical, steal, stab, move for Metagross that has a 20% chance to raise its attack, which is really nice, but 20% ends up not being as good as you would think it would be, unfortunately. It's often just better to kind of go ahead and set up a Hone Claws or set up an Iron Defense. Hone Claws is a move that boosts your attack by 1 stage and your accuracy and maybe your defense. Let's go ahead and double check actually. Over here, I think it might just be attack and accuracy. We can always... yeah, raises your attack and accuracy by 1 stage. There you go. Hone Claws, learned by TM, can be taught on Metagross. So I'd probably recommend going something like Meteor Mash, Hone Claws. You could even go Hone Claws, Iron Defense. Yeah, Meteor Mash, Hammer Arm. But you could also slot in Ice Punch and Thunder Punch. That's going to be super raid dependent, but Ice Punch and Thunder Punch were super good options against raid that those were 4 times effective against. So definitely keep that in mind. Hammer Arm was super good. There were so many. Also, this is also 90% accuracy, which is why, Hone Claws become so. That accuracy raise actually is super relevant. Hammer Arm, there were so many normal types during the PVM raid test, so maybe this becomes not as good. But during the beta test, it was super good. And it's because of the item clause, there are a couple, I'm going to give you guys multiple options for each Pokemon. Sableye was really just light clay. It's going to be your light clay user, pretty simple. But Metagross, you could run things like Leftovers. You could even run Shell Bell, which is an item that heals you based on the amount of damage that you do, which can be pretty good on Metagross. You could also use Citrus Berry, which heals, I believe, 25% HP once you drop below 50%, which is usually used on belly drummers, for example. All these different heal type options could work. Citrus Berry is often used as a backup heal option in something like doubles, which is kind of similar to this format. You generally want some kind of heal on Metagross since it can't self-sustain within its move pool unless you ran something like Resto Chesto, but I don't know if I'd recommend that. Maybe we could do some testing though. So generally some sort of healing on Metagross is going to be ideal as it sets up its Iron Defenses in Hone Claws. Next up, number 3 on our list is one of the most turbo setup, powerful Pokemon possible within raids. It's going to be Reuniclus. I want to talk about the moveset first things first on this thing because this thing just becomes a monster. Now, this thing needs a little bit of support to get going. You have to be careful because you want to definitely invest in bulk, like full bulk EVs. Bulk is what matters. Like my special attack stat on this thing is low, but that's fine. You make up for the attack later on. It's whatever. You need this thing to survive. You need Reuniclus to survive the first 1 or 2 or 3 attacks, and if it can do that, it'll be unkillable. It'll become a monster. This moveset is pretty set in stone. I don't see any versatility with it, to be totally honest. Iron Defense, Calm Mind, stored power, recover. The general strategy of this is if you're against a physical type attacker, you set up like +6 iron defense, and then afterwards you set up your calm mines to raise your special attack and special defense against special attacker raids, and then you can recover to full HP, get yourself healthy, recover whenever you need essentially, and use stored power to do tons of damage. Stored power reads: the user attacks the target with stored power. The more the user's stats are raised, the greater the damage. So when you have +6 iron defense and like +3 calm mines, I think usually you're doing around 10% damage per attack, and you're unkillable. And 10%, for those who don't know, when you're fighting a raid, 10% damage is the maximum. It's the cap. It's the maximum amount of damage you could possibly do against that raid boss with one Pokemon attack, which is really, if you're doing max damage, that's very, very, very impressive. But here's the IVs that I use. You don't need speed. You want to have that special attack stat, possibly 20 plus, but it honestly doesn't really matter. Like 15 plus is fine. What you really, really want, and I'm really glad mine works out perfectly for this, 25 plus, 28 plus if possible, 3 times 31 if possible. The bulk is important. The bulk on Reuniclus is super important. HP defense, special defense, relaxed nature, a plus defense. Probably go plus defense over plus special defense. I would probably even, this depends. I might split the EVs on defense and special defense. Once again, it depends on how many raids are going to be special attacking versus how many raids are going to be physically attacking. We're not really quite sure yet. And then in terms of items, leftovers, very, very similar to Metagross, I would go leftovers, citrus berry. I wouldn't really recommend Shell Bell with this thing because I don't know if it even works for special attacks. I wouldn't really recommend Shell Bell because you're trying to heal up and get saved before you start attacking. The main thing is if you can sustain your HP while you're getting attacked. I would even recommend a damage reducing berry, something like is it Culber berry? There's certain berries that reduce your damage against certain attacks, and the big one, I'm not even sure what it's called off the top of my head. I actually might have it on this list somewhere. Let's see. Nah, I don't have it written down. Apologies. But there's a berry that reduces like a dark type attack, for example. If you're against a dark type raid, or they might have Night Slash or something like that, having that damage reducing berry, if they have any super effective moves against Reuniclus, putting that on is really important because once again, if you can survive that first, second, and third attack, you win. Like if Reuniclus can survive for the first 3 turns, you just turbo sweep. You're just good. Unless it gets crit or something crazy happens, but it's pretty hard to lose the raid if you have a Reuniclus like set up +6 iron defense. It's really, really hard, especially +6 iron defense, +3 calm mines. Like this thing just becomes a monster. So anything that allows you to survive those first 3 turns, damage reducing berry, leftovers, citrus berry, any of that should be good. Alright, this might be the most boring Pokemon so far, but it's kind of a good change of pace since we've been talking about each Pokemon for like 4 minutes at a time. Apologies, didn't mean for this video to be so long, but here we go with Garchomp. Garchomp is pretty much here just to spam Earthquake. It's just, bulky, strong Pokemon. It's powerful, it's fast, it's Garchomp. He does everything. You just bring him in, you spam Earthquake against Pokemon that are weak to it. It hits all the adds, which is really nice. Whenever you're in a PVM raid, you're, against 3 different Pokemon and it hits all the adds, all the side Pokemon essentially, not just the raid boss, which is super nice to clear those if they're threatening. And that's really it. Garchomp is really, 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 really simple. Whenever I brought him in, he was just for extra DPS. He was just to come in and click Earthquake. Because of that, like, you don't need all these fancy stats. I would just recommend 31 attack, 31 speed. If you can go 20 plus in defenses and HP, it's appreciated. Your teammates will appreciate it, but I think it's doable without, to be totally honest. And then I would recommend in a raid format, you probably want to go Adamant. Honestly, I feel like more damage over speed is going to be more relevant, but we'll see what happens. I would probably go Adamant, but obviously, if you want to be able to also use that Garchomp in PvP, you definitely want it to be Jolly, so mine's Jolly. It's from PvP. Yeah, pretty simple. Bring it in, spam Earthquake. That's pretty much it. EVs, really simple. 2v2 attack, 2v2 speed. This is the brain dead, favorite man's Pokemon. In terms of item, I have Metronome on it. Metronome's a unique item. I like that it's usable in raids. Metronome is an item that slowly boosts the move as you use it consecutively. And since you're pretty much just coming in to spam Earthquake, the more you spam Earthquake and the more you're able to stay alive, Metronome's going to be better if you're like a bulkier Garchomp. That's important to consider. You're going to get like 10% boost, I believe, on the move per turn. So the first time it's a 10% on Earthquake, the second time is 20%, 30%, 40%. The more you like click Earthquake in a row, you'll keep getting consecutive boosts. However, it takes you a long time to get up to that. If you have access to it and if another Pokemon isn't using it, Choice Band's going to be better, most like 90% of the time, just giving that 50% boost off the get, you know, and you're able to get huge attacks off. Choice Band's going to be way better if you haven't already used it on a different Pokemon, so definitely use that here. You could use Choice Band on this thing. You could use Choice Scarf. You could use Metronome. You could use Soft Sand. You could even use like Ground Gem to give a one. If you're using, you know, those other items on other Pokemon is essentially what this comes down to. So yeah, Garchomp's really brain dead, really simple. Come in, spam EQ, do big damage, do Garchomp things. All right, now it's time to talk about Sablei's Flying Brethren. Number 5 on our list is going to be Murkrow. Now, excuse me, I just recently bred this Murkrow, so I haven't EV trained it or moveset it, but don't worry, I'll be telling you guys what I recommend for everything, so just ignore the visuals for this little part. But essentially, Murkrow's job is to do a very similar thing to the Sableye, but die even faster. You don't want your Murkrow to stay alive. Now, it's getting off, you could, like... Technically, if you wanted to, you could get the shittiest Murkrow with hidden ability access, with Prankster, with Tailwind, and it could be 0 in all IVs and un-EV trained, and just make sure it's level 65 or whatever level you need to actually get into the raid. And as long as this thing leads the fight and gets off Tailwind, you're good. Now, in my opinion, if you like, that'll get plenty of its use. Honestly, that's it doing its job. However, I'm building an actual one. I went for the defensive stats, 25 plus HP, defense, special defense. I think it's worth it. Sassy nature. You don't need speed because everything's gonna be prankstered anyway with priority. So personally, I will be going 252 HP EVs and then some sort of mix in the defenses. I don't know if I'm gonna go full. Since I'm sassy, I don't know if I'll be going full defense or full special defense. Honestly, not totally sure yet. Probably full defense, but it depends on, once again, how many physical versus how many special raids are put out. The moves on this thing, I'd recommend Tailwind. Haze is really important. Haze ends up becoming the secondary, like, best move on this thing. There were certain raids, I think it was Slacking, that got like a huge, like, special defense boost or some sort of big boost when he just entered the battle. So having Haze to get rid of that at the beginning of battles, or Haze to take out certain status changes is really important. Keep in mind, I think Haze should affect your teammates as well. Let's go ahead and double check. It might affect your teammates. So all the Pokemon to get, yeah. So if your teammate sets up plus, 3 Iron Defense or whatever, plus its Iron Defense, and then goes to Calm Mind, and you Haze him, I mean, that's the easiest report. That's your trolling at that point. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. So know what your abilities do. Know what your moves do. Don't haze your teammates. But certain fights you may want to haze at the very beginning through the stat changes. So Tailwind, Haze, Foul Play. Foul Play is a dark type move that does damage based on your opponent's attack stat, so you don't need any attack or anything else on the Murkrow. It'll be totally fine. Foul Play is fantastic. And then for the final slot, you can go Thunder Wave, Rain Dance, or Sunny Day. Any sort of like helpful to the team. If you're against a special attacker, you can rock the Thunder Wave. You can have I'd probably just rock the Thunder Wave just in case. If your team is doing some sort of rain or sun strategy, you can support and rock and set up the weather. So, or also just have that weather set up to counter other raids weathers that might be set up, right? All of that's team dependent, so just make sure to communicate whether you need T-Wave or Will-O-Wisp on that specific raid. Do not T-Wave a raid if it's a physical attacker. Like most of the time, like if your teammate your teammate, let them Will-O-Wisp it. And make sure you have, once again, I've already said it, but make sure you have Prankster ability, and make sure you have Eviolite as an item. You probably shouldn't be using that many Eviolite users, but this is a really good example of a really good Eviolite user. You can go ahead and pop Eviolite on it. You could also put Memento on this thing. I'm just thinking of this now on the spot. I don't know if it's an egg move or not. Don't think so. Let's try and find Memento. Memento's I'm pretty sure this thing gets Memento. Actually, I don't think it does. Never mind. Apologies. Whimsicott gets Memento. So if you want to run Whimsicott in this thing's place, you can do that. But I don't think Whimsicott gets Haze, which is the trade-off. So if you want Haze, you need Murkrow. If you want Memento, which is just a move that lowers the opponent's, I believe, attacks and special attacks pretty aggressively, but then kills the user. So you're kind of using it to like switch out of your Cottony. Yeah, Memento. The user faints when using this move, harshly lowering the opponent's attack and special attack. That could be really good against raids. It might be good against Cottony as well. Cottony / Murkrow kind of operating the same slot. So that's it for Murkrow number 5. Apologies for interrupting your guys' video right now, but it's for a good cause. I'm here to give you guys a good deal on snacks. But not just any snacks. I'm talking authentic Japanese snacks shipped straight from Tokyo. Have you ever thought about traveling to Japan just to try out their cuisine, their beautiful, world-renowned foods? Well, you can do it with the power of this box. Sakura Co. and Tokyo Treat's main goal is to let people experience Japan from the comfort of their own home. It's a monthly subscription service where you're given a box full of snacks just like this every month. Now, the best part about this collaboration is that you have 2 different snack boxes to choose from dependent on your lifestyle and your needs. If you want a party, more fun, poppy snack box, go ahead and go with Tokyo Treat. If you want something a little more serious, you want to support local Japanese snack makers and tea makers, you can get the Sakura Co. box, which is considered to be a monthly Japanese artisan-based snack box. There's always a theme attached, and they give you a little pamphlet explaining it and going through all the different tastes and flavors and treats that are within your box. This is the Sakura Co. April box, and then we'll cover the Tokyo Treat April box behind me. And this is a really good month to go ahead and subscribe, since a lot of the flavors in the Tokyo Treat box that I'm seeing are white chocolate strawberries and strawberry related. If you're a strawberry fan, this is your season to get a Tokyo Treat box. My personal favorite of the Sakura Co. box is that you always get a permanent little dish or item to put on your shelf or use in your home forever. Each box has up to 20 gifts, snacks, and teas in them, and they're really good about not skimping you on value. Alright, that was the Sakura Co. box. Let's not sleep on the Tokyo Treat box. I personally just love the outer design of the boxes this month as well. Probably easily one of my favorites. And this month for Tokyo Treat is Sakura Matsuri Snack Fest. One of the things that I think a lot of people look forward to, myself included, are the special and limited time Kit Kat flavors from these boxes. This month is a simple yet delicious strawberry Kit Kat. They did a chocolate strawberry flavored one a couple months back or so, and that was one of my favorites, so I'm sure I'll like this one a lot as well. That's a 10 out of 10 on sweetness. Fantastic. Now, I can speak confidently from personal experience that I look forward to my Sakura Co. and Tokyo Treat box every single month. It's also kind of become a monthly ritual where me and my fiance share the snacks together and give our thoughts and feelings. So whether you want to spend time with loved ones or give a unique gift to someone you care about in your life who would appreciate it, or just get a nice little snack or treat for yourself, Sakura Co. and Tokyo Treat box are a fantastic option. But I think that's about everything for me today, so I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and check out my link in the description for Tokyo Treat box and Sakura Co. They're fantastic. Once again, get a huge discount with my link in the description. Cheers. Now, number 6 is a Pokemon I don't have access to yet, and this was just a Pokemon that I saw absolutely pop off in dumpster other Pokemon in the raids that I haven't really seen talked about. I'm talking about Honchkrow. I don't have one of these yet, unfortunately, so apologies. Now, the reason you can't have a Honchkrow do the same job as Murkrow is that Honchkrow actually doesn't get access to the Prankster ability. It changes. It becomes Insomnia and Super Luck / Moxie. You would think that you would want Moxie for this build as like a physical attacker. You know, Honchkrow, get those boosts, yada yada, get really strong. I don't recommend that. I recommend Super Luck. So I would make a Honchkrow with Super Luck, and the most important part of this Pokemon, Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch, I saw someone switch in a Honchkrow, you know, full offensive, 252 attack, 252 speed, IVs, probably Adamant Nature. I don't know if it was Adamant or Jolly, probably Adamant Nature, and just Sucker Punch. I forget it was not super effective. Sucker Punch, the raid boss, and he was just doing 10% damage to this raid boss every turn. It was insane. It was probably like one of the most like instant impact, powerful Pokemon you could bring. If you don't have much money, don't have many things, but you want to support your team and help your team, get yourself a Honchkrow with Sucker Punch. This thing was doing insane damage against certain raids. Maybe if it's like a raid that, you know, is resistant to Dark type, you know, don't bring it then. But I would do Sucker Punch. U-Turn is a cool backup option if you want to be able to switch it out. And maybe some other supportive moves if you want to weave those onto it. I don't know if it gets access to Tailwind or anything. Honestly, I haven't really thought about this thing past Sucker Punch. Like, Sucker Punch is just so good. You could go Tailwind to have support for your teammates if it comes down to it, and have access to Thunder Wave, for example. But, man, I would just recommend Sucker Punch. I would go like Choice Band, probably. Choice Band, Sucker Punch. You could go Life Orb, Choice Band, Life Orb. Technically Metronome, but I wouldn't recommend it. This thing's dying. It's not tanky. This thing is dying soon. Its job is to, if this thing comes in and gets off one Sucker Punch to where it does 10% damage, that's incredible. You know, you have 6 times 4 people on your team, so it's 6 Pokemon per 4 people. You have 24 Pokemon on your team. If all of those Pokemon manage to do 10% damage in one attack, I mean, that's going to be 240% damage, right? So you're killing that raid almost 2.5 times. Being able to have that instant impact is really important. However, it's just shown that turbo setup is really good, but this kind of goes against it. So keep in mind, Sucker Punch Honchkrow with Choice Band, fully offensive, as shown to be, I saw it be really, really, really good in my raids, but you can't have a Honchkrow that does both the jobs of a Honchkrow and a Murkrow. Murkrow's the defensive utility, Honchkrow's the hyper offense, spam Sucker Punch only, just get shit done kind of guy. All right, number 7 on my list is going to be Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn was super good during these raids. Now keep in mind, I'm telling you right now, okay, if you're breeding a Ferrothorn, make sure you get Leech Seed. That was a huge mistake that I made. Now, I made this Ferrothorn back in like 2021, so, you know, I couldn't have possibly prepared for this, but Leech Seed is super important. Please get Leech Seed. It is an edge move. Look up how to breed Leech Seed edge move on Ferrothorn. There should be something online. Maybe I'll make a guide if people really need it. It's really important. You can run Ingrain as a backup option, but Leech Seed is way better. Leech Seed is really, really, really good against the Alpha Rays because it can't switch out. The Alpha enemy can't switch out. So if you set up a Leech Seed at all with Ferrothorn, that boss is constantly being Leech Seeded and drained of its HP and giving HP to your teammates throughout the entire fight, and giving HP to even your other Pokemon that you switch in after Ferrothorn. So Leech Seed is an effect that literally benefits the entire battle for the whole battle. It's super, super good. Leech Seed Ferrothorn, obviously a really unkillable Pokemon as well, a very, very tanky Pokemon, notoriously. Let's check out its base stats. It's beautiful. 74 HP is enough for the defense stats, 116 for the defense, 131 defense. Main thing being is Ferrothorn's 4 times weak to fire, so if the raid boss or even its ads have any sort of fire type move, you probably shouldn't bring Ferrothorn. You gotta be aware of that. But make sure you get that Leech Seed edge move. Get Curse in Gyro Ball. Curse and Gyro Ball get pretty scary. You would be surprised. Curse raising its attack and lowering its speed at the same time is basically a double boost to Gyro Ball, which is a stab steel type move for this Pokemon that's already super slow. Yeah, it's essentially a Swords Dance, but you're not, you know, it's also raising its defense. You're also raising its defense with the Curse. It raises attack plus defense plus minus the speed, which is just super, super, super good for Gyro Ball. So Gyro Ball, Power Whip, not really needed, but it's kind of interesting for grass coverage. It's kind of whatever. Yeah, Curse just makes this thing. Your main job is to just set up Leech Seed, sit there and suck HP and Curse up, kind of become unkillable. Eventually you want to throw off some Gyro Balls. Plus your Iron Barb damage. If the boss targets you at all, you causing constant Iron Barb alongside Rocky Helmet, this chip becomes pretty drastic. If you have a Ferrothorn and you just AFK there and let it get, like, if you didn't click a move on Ferrothorn theoretically and just let the boss hit it with Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet, you're probably doing enough work. You're like, the main thing is to make it so each party slot, each Pokemon in your team provides enough value to your team. And a lot of these Pokemon, it's really hard for them not to provide value, which is why they're so good. So Rocky Helmet plus Iron Barb is just fantastic. Some sort of plus defense or special defense nature, and then defensive EV training. 252 HP is a must, and then you would go either split in the defenses or straight up into one if you want to do like that, whatever works. In terms of IVs, 20 to 25 plus HP, attack, defense, and special defense. You don't need speed. This could be 0. It's actually probably better if this is 0. So low speed is probably ideal. Doesn't really matter. And then 25 plus special defense, attack, and HP if you really want. Don't get tricked by fancy green numbers. Green numbers are nice. It's cool to have green numbers on things, but 25 plus with correct nature is so much better, like leagues better than 31, you know, a green number plus not correct nature. It's, yeah, 25 plus. Don't let that the big bright up green number fool you, unless you're collecting. Obviously, that's fine. But yeah, Ferrothorn's super good. Pretty good Pokemon. That's pretty much it. In terms of items, I feel like you really just go Rocky Helmet. Like, you could technically go Leftovers if this is your main damage dealer as well. I don't see why. I would just go Rocky Helmet. I'm going to be honest. All right, on to number 8. Okay, there's only 3 more left to talk about. I know we're getting through it together. Thanks for watching up until this point. Ampharos. Ampharos is a really nice, bulky, special electric attacker, which fits a pretty niche role, but I thought it was really, really good. It was pretty good against Gyarados, although you might want to slot in. You can have this slot kind of be Ampharos / Zapdos. If you can pay for a Zapdos, or if you've caught yourself a Zapdos, Zapdos was extremely good against Gyarados. Zapdos is probably going to continue to be very good. Just get yourself 252 special attack, 252 speed, just offensive, pretty typical Zapdos. You can probably go modest over timid. I'd recommend 4 raids, although timid might be better for PvP. And then you want Volt Switch, Thunder, Thunderbolt, maybe Heat Wave. I don't know what other moves. Like, it's just basically you want Volt Switch and Thunder. You don't, it depends if you have rain set up or whatever, Thunder versus Thunderbolt. But yeah, Zapdos is super good. You can get that in this slot as well. Here's Ampharos. This Ampharos wasn't, like, this was a raid Ampharos that I got, like, during the event, and I just kind of used it because I thought that I had a PvP Ampharos, but I must have sold it off a long time ago. This is a pretty defensive Ampharos. Calm is actually perfect here, hilariously. Not perfect IVs. Once again, this is 10 special attack IV, 16 defense. You don't need perfect IVs. This is just, I needed it, and I used it, and it worked perfectly for the raid. It did exactly what I needed it to do. But the really cool thing about Ampharos is that it has this move, Cotton Guard. And Cotton Guard is really freaking strong. Cotton Guard gives you +3 defense stat boosts in 1 turn. So if you use Cotton Guard for 2 turns in a row, you get +6 defense, which is maximum, max you can boost on a stat. So if you're against if you have access to, like, a plus special defensive nature, and then you go, like, special attack EVs into, like, special defense EVs, or special attack EVs into HP EVs, that's fine as well. And then you just set up Cotton Guard and set up Light Screen. You become unkillable as an Ampharos, which is very, very funny. The main thing here to keep in mind is that its hidden ability is bad, but it might be worth to have overstatic, since you don't want to accidentally cause paralysis against the raid boss if you need to Will-O-Wisp it. So that kind of just depends on the raid once again. Yeah, Thunder, for this thing, you want to have it under rain if possible. So if you have a teammate with Pelipper or some sort of rain setup, like we talked about with, like, Sableye can set up rain, I believe. Murkrow can set up rain. One of those guys, one of those support Pokemon. You can go Thunder. Otherwise, you can go Thunderbolt. That's fine. Thunder or Thunderbolt here, Cotton Guard, Light Screen. You could even go, like, Volt Switch or the other Thunder/Thunderbolt if you didn't go that, or Dragon Pulse. Dragon Pulse is not going to be that good, probably. I'd probably just go Volt Switch or something else there, but it's kind of up to you. Yeah, pretty simple Pokemon. Like, you need every stat on this thing except for the physical attack. The physical attack's irrelevant. Other than that, 25 plus and everything, 20 to 25 plus and everything is ideal. If you could pick 131, I would definitely go for special attack. And that's pretty much it for Ampharos. Pretty simple, powerful Pokemon, was just really good against certain raids. I wouldn't count it out. Cotton Guard is just so good. All right, number 9, I call this guy the unkillable Hippo, but how good is being unkillable in raids actually? It's pretty good. Now, on this, you probably do need to PP max Earthquake, because you're going to be alive for so long that you actually do need the more PP to spam off those Earthquakes. Hippo is really interesting. Very unkillable. Like, probably the most unkillable Pokemon on this list, unironically, at least from what I played. It was insane for when I used it for. But once he becomes unkillable, there's only so much you can do, which is kind of makes it a little more questionable on this list. Now, if you can draw aggro with it, that's super good, but that's tougher to do with its super slow speed. It was really, really good in test raids, and to do unkillable, sorry, I'm like reading my notes. I would only run this thing against raids. I would probably only run Hippo against raids that are really tanky and slogfests where they don't hit that hard back. If all of your teammates are, keep in mind, especially if you're in solo queue, if all of your teammates are getting wiped out while you're just sitting there, like, alive but not really doing much, it's not actually that helpful. Like, if you're the player who's like, oh, I still have all 6 of my Pokemon left because my Hippo is unkillable, but I've only done 6% of damage to the enemy boss within, 20 turns, like, you're the one throwing there. You're not doing a good job. You're not being a team player. Don't sit there and say, like, oh, well, all of your Pokemon are dead, but mine's alive, so clearly I did a good job. No, you didn't. You hurt your team with that. So be careful about this. This can be really good in a coordinated team. Hippo can be very good in a coordinated team, or be very good against those, once again, those very slogfest type raids they're also very, very tanky. It's especially good if all of your teammates are also playing these borderline unkillable Pokemon, and you all become unkillable, and then you all are kind of just sitting there, kind of just chipping away the boss, just unable to be killed, and just kind of slowly whittling it down. That's honestly a great strategy. But let's actually go over the IVs, EVs, stat spreads, moves, whatever. Careful nature, I think. So Hippo's biggest weakness is special defense, but you can make up for it with with nature and EVs. So that's what I do here. I go 2v2 HP, 2v2 special defense is meant to be like an all-around tanky hippo, and I went Smooth Rock. Smooth Rock is great as well because your Sandstorm, keep in mind, your Sandstorm boosts your special defense. As a ground type with Sandstorm up, you're actually boosting your special defense by 1.5 times. So you see this 72 special defense base stat, and you think, oh, it's not that great, but when you invest in a special defense nature and you invest in a special defense EVs, and then you also have Sandstorm up, this thing actually becomes a better special defense tank than a defensive tank in a lot of ways, at least stat-wise. Like, look at this. We can see here 179 defense versus 174 special defense. Like, it actually caught up. And also with Sandstorm up, yeah, it would actually be well more. With Sandstorm up, this special defense would be 1.5 times. It would make it drastically better than his defensive. So keep that in mind. You can also use Amnesia or other, you know, status boosting moves to make it even more unkillable. I don't know if it gets Iron Defense. You could also slot in, like, you could slot in Ice Fang / Thunder Fang, but only do that if the raid is 4 times weak, please. That's really important to keep in mind. Same with like Fire Fang. Only slot in those moves if you know the raid is going to be 4 times weak to that attack. Earthquake is a must on this thing. It's its stab type move. It's its bread and butter. You want to sit here. You want to set up Amnesia. You want to slack off whenever you want to heal HP. It's just a heal move. 50%. That's a recover. And then spam off EQs. Yawn is, I would not go Yawn. Yawn is not a good move slot here. It's just kind of a, I just didn't replace it yet. Putting the enemy raid boss to sleep is just not that great because it constantly wakes up. And that's a huge problem. What you could go here, I would go Curse, actually, personally. I haven't even seen that. That's cool. So I'm just thinking, yeah, thinking about this on the fly. What I would do is I would turn this into another turbo setup Pokemon where you set up Amnesias or Curses, depending on the raid boss, and you kind of, yeah, I would go Curse. Curse is actually probably really good on this thing. Actually, if I have a Curse TM, I'll probably just teach it onto this thing right now. Well, we're doing it live, fellas. I do not, though. I'll have to go buy one. This thing will definitely get Curse and make it even more unkillable and raise that attack stat, which it really needs to make it actually be more useful. If you can do damage with this thing and make it unkillable, now you got a Reuniclus on your hands, essentially, a mini Reuniclus or a ground type Reuniclus, which can be relevant against, you know, electric type attackers. So I was a huge fan of Hippo. I think it really surprised me. In terms of items, you probably want to go Smooth Rock. You could go Rocky Helmet. You could go Leftovers if you haven't used those yet. You definitely could go all the things. You could go Metronome if you really want to as well, if you want to push, if you need that more damage. That's all my recommendations for items. And all right, the final Pokemon I want to talk about today. Now, any Pokemon not on this list, there are probably still some really good options. Like things I can think about, like Altaria is also a really interesting option. I heard people could duel with Flygon, for example, stuff like that. There are plenty of Pokemon that are good in raids that I didn't include here. So if I didn't include them, doesn't mean they're bad. I just didn't really get to them today. And in my opinion, these were the top 10 best. But I think I forgot something. Feel free in the comments, guys. Leave all of your different options for raid Pokemon. The more options, the better. The more like builds people can prepare ahead of time, the better. Let's go ahead and prepare ourselves for raids. Let's go ahead and jump into number 10. This is going to be tanky, bulky Tyranitar. This Pokemon was so good that against certain raids, before the species clause was implemented, I had a team where I had a raid where I went in with 3 Tyranitars, all with Assault Gear. I've also totally forgotten about Salt Gear throughout this list, to be fair. So going back, if I were to put Assault Gear on certain Pokemon, you could do Assault Gear on Garchomp. The issue is a lot of these Pokemon need to set up, so you can't really run Assault Gear on a ton of them. At Garchomp, Assault Gear is honestly a really good option to sit there for way longer and just EQ. You could... Nah, you can't really... Honestly, nah. You can't really go Assault... You could, like, make a Metagross specifically for Assault Gear, but then you can't do the Iron Defense Hone Claws strategy stuff, so keep that in mind. For those who don't know, Assault Gear, aka Assault Vest, is just an item that boosts your special defense by 50% flat out, but you can't use status moves. You can't use any status moves except for me first, apparently. So you can only use attacking moves. So even like Detect here, can't use that. Dragon Dance, can't use that. Like the only thing you're using this for is to put it on a tanky, strong Pokemon, let it sit there and just get off consistent damage. Let's throw off its crunches, its earthquakes, its stone edges, rock slide, whatever you want. Rock slide can be good against the ads and stuff and clearing the extra Pokemon as well, but Assault Gear Tyranitar, it's really honestly super good. It's kind of funny that's number 10 on this list. My bulky one ended up being better. So this one's a Dragon Dance one that's 2v2 attack EVs, 2v2 speed. I recommend getting a bulky one if possible. This will work. If you don't, don't panic. This can work. You could also, if you're this offensive Tyranitar, you could just go Choice Band and just go a more offensive strategy in general with this. Maybe Choice Band or Choice Scarf. But if you're this bulky bit, definitely go Assault Gear. My bulky one definitely was more powerful in my opinion. You could also go Smooth Rock if you have another Pokemon using Assault Gear for sure. This one goes 2v2 HP, 128 defense, split defenses. It is Adamant Nature, still both Adamant Nature. Adamant Nature can work, relaxed, careful, any plus defensive nature or plus attacking nature. Brave is probably fine. Obviously, you kind of do want to have some speed if possible, but it could be fine. You could also do thought it was now. You could probably try a curse. You could do a Tyranitar where you go careful nature, so like plus special defense, minus special attack, and then go 252 special defense EVs and 252 HP, and then run curse. So then you sort of take care of all of your defenses and all of your, it's hard to go wrong with Tyranitar, but then don't run Assault Gear. You'd probably run leftovers. Tyranitar is known to be the Swiss Army knife Pokemon. Like, if you wanted to, you could make him a special attacker if you really wanted to. Like, it wouldn't be that bad. He really can do everything, with 100+ base stat in almost every single stat, except for, special attack behind by 95, and then its speed is its biggest downside. But yeah, Tyranitar, it's hard to go wrong with. Powerful Pokemon. If you're running into a raid with pretty much any Tyranitar, you're going to do well. Keep in mind, he does have a 4x weakness to fighting. Any of these Pokemon with a 4x weakness, you have to keep that in mind because they'll just get wiped off the face of the earth. You're going into a Machamp raid, maybe don't bring a Tyranitar. It's that simple. Just keep that in mind. But I think that's it. For Tyranitar, you can just do a ton of things, ton of options. Hopefully this lays out some of the groundwork and some of the suggestions that I would recommend for some of the, just a few of the Tyranitar options you could run. I guess one more thing worth noting is that the sand chip, like Tyranitar coming in and setting up sand, the sand chip is actually super relevant against the boss, and it's usually worth for your team to just kind of tank that chip. It's okay. Yeah, that chip against the boss is honestly super relevant over the course of the battle. But keep in mind, if the enemy / the boss, the PvP, the raid, right? If it's a steel type, if it's a ground type, if it's one of those types that benefits from the sand stream 1.5 times special defense boost, and your teammates are using special attacking Pokemon, you got to keep that in mind. There's a lot of synergy stuff to keep in mind when doing these raids. So, you might make a mistake. It's gonna happen. If you make a mistake, just say sorry in link chat. Just say, "Oops, sorry guys, I didn't think about that. I made a mistake. My bad. I've done it. It happens." There's so many things. Pokemon is so complicated. Odds are you're gonna make a mistake and hurt your teammates in some way, and you kind of have to own up to that and try to move on and try to make it up for them in the next battle, or just make it up for them in that battle. All right, but I think that is finally everything. I hope this video that is longer than I expected was helpful. Hopefully it was fun, maybe entertaining in the background while you kind of just grind, EV train, XP train, and prepare your raid Pokemon. Make sure to like this video if it was helpful, guys. It really is one of those powerful things you can do to help my channel and help PokeMMO. Dislike if not, that's okay. If you think, what, none of these Pokemon were helpful to you, these are actually all bad suggestions, I stink and I smell, dislike, whatever. Subscribe to the channel for daily PokeMMO videos. I do upload every single day on YouTube, and I stream Monday through Thursday 4 times a week on Twitch and YouTube at 12 p.m. ET. Discord's links down below for updates on my content, new videos, new streams, and just tons of raid help. If you want to theory craft and brainstorm with other people, or just meet some other players that you might want to prepare for raids with, it's a great place to do it, is my Discord. And if you want to go above and beyond and support my content, if it's been helpful enough to you, if it's been entertaining, informative, helped your PokeMMO journey, made you some Pokeyen, whatever it may be, going above and beyond if it's been worth it to you, and if you can afford it, YouTube memberships, Twitch primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal / Venmo donations keep me afloat, keep me around, allow me to make these videos. So thank you to everyone who does that. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. I'm just a player. Thanks for watching. I'm Patrouski. See you guys later. Peace, Reno. I'm excited for raids. Yo, what's up? I just want to quickly say thank you so much for watching the entire video. That's very, very cool of you. And it's even cooler for all of these people to go above and beyond and support my content. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much again.